Hey there guys, what is going on? Again, we are back on the tier maker website, and you know what that means. We are ranking something today in a little bit of a tier list. We are looking at all of the SMGs in the Cold War Season 6 update, and that does include the Haunting event, which sees us taking a look at the Lapa SMG, which is a very interesting weapon in this game. Bit of a risk on that one. Yeah, we're gonna have to wait and see how we end up ranking that thing, because it's interesting. Again, our rankings are, of course, starting at the bottom. We do have the Nazi. These are basically just the dumpster tier weapons in this game. You do not really want to use these weapons, man. Like, if you are trying to be even, like, slightly competitive, you probably just want to steer clear of the dumpster or the Nazi, man. Like, then we do have the situational tier. These are weapons that really do only excel in certain situations, and there's not actually too many of these weapons on this list either. Then we do have the viable middle-of-the-road weapons that I think are very, very good in the game. Again, these aren't like top tier, but it's just basically middle-of-the-road stuff. Weapons that are fine, weapons that you can get kills with and have a good time with. Then we do have the meta kind of tier. These are weapons that are pushing it, man. Like, these are weapons that do have a flaw or two that are keeping them from being absolutely top tier, man. And then we do have the meta. These are weapons that are absolutely dominant in this game right now. They really do have sort of statistic outliers that do make them really, really stand out. And these include a couple of weapons on this list as well, which is always very exciting. So starting us off here, as usual, with the alphabetical order-ish to start off with, we do have, of course, the AK-74U, man. This is a good weapon in this game. You already know this. It does feature a very, very fast TTK up close. It's one of the fastest killing weapons up close. I think if you are getting a headshot, I think it's 2 headshots on a body shot with this thing, you are basically getting a 3-shot kill, which absolutely deletes people from the game. I think it's like 150 milliseconds or something like that, but that is really only out to about 10, 12 meters or so. And then outside of those distances, that TTK does drop off a little bit, but it's still not the worst weapon that you can use. Like, this is a very, very powerful killing tool up close, man, and one of the most fun and popular weapons in this game. Everybody loves the AK-74U, so we're going to put this in the meta tier. That's pretty standard. Very, very easy decision to make with the AK-74U. Then, of course, we do have the Bullfrog, which I have sort of fallen off a bit recently. Like, I used to think it was one of the best weapons in the game. I've had this in the meta tier previously, but at the moment, I think it's just a nice weapon. If you're not getting headshots with this thing, the TTK value is a little lame. It does feel like a bit of a pea shooter if you aren't getting headshots, but it has a large magazine. It's really, really cool. You don't actually have to use a magazine attachment on this thing at all with a 50-round mag. The aim down sight speed's okay. The damage is okay. Like, the TTK value is a little lackluster, as I said, but it's not the worst thing in the world. I feel like this is a pretty easy, viable tier weapon. Like, it's just a middle-of-the-road SMG. If you want to have some fun with a large magazine SMG, this is the one you can go with. Then we do have the KSP. Again, this is a very, very powerful weapon in this game. It does feature one of the higher TTK values at about 220 milliseconds if you are getting that one burst kill. Now, this is a burst weapon, of course, and that is not for everyone, so it's always a little bit difficult to put this in the meta tier. But again, I think this is a weapon that is pushing it, but if it wasn't a burst weapon and had a similar value, like, it'd just be most broken gun in the game. So I feel like it's sort of halfway between the meta and the meta kind of tier, mostly because some people just don't use or don't like using burst weapons, and that's cool. Some people just have preferences that they don't use these things. But again, 220 milliseconds worth of TTK value is absolutely lightning fast, especially if you are getting that one burst kill here. So we're going to put this in the meta kind of tier because it's not something that everybody can go out and use. But I mean, it's pushing it. I'd probably put this in the meta tier if it was me personally, but I feel like, because it's not really a general use weapon that everybody can just go out with, and you know, I feel like the meta kind of tier is a good spot for it. Then we do have the LC-10. Now, again, this is a weapon that does kill slightly slowly when we compare our milestone of about 300 milliseconds being one of the good weapons in this game. This is slightly slower than that, but the LC-10 is just really easy to control. It doesn't have that insane low recoil anymore. It's not that hard to control, but it is a little bit worse than it used to be. And the TTK value at that longer distance isn't really there at the moment. So again, I feel like this is a good weapon just because of how easy it is to use. But it's not the top tier anymore. We have dropped this down to the better kind of tier, mostly because it's just an okay weapon. Like, it doesn't stand out in anything, but it is still a reliable killing tool at those medium distances here. Then we do have the MAC-10, which I really do appreciate as a good weapon in this game. It does feature an up-close TTK value of about 280 milliseconds, which I think is actually a very, very good value. But the recoil on this thing is a little bit difficult to control, and it really only excels at those sort of close to medium distances. It's kind of pushing it. So again, up close is where this thing absolutely excels, and that's what an SMG is for. But again, at those sort of medium to longer distances, this thing is absolutely useless. So we're going to put this in the viable tier. It's pushing meta kind of tier. If it had slightly lower recoil, it'd probably be sort of pushing the meta kind of tier. But at the moment, it's probably the top of the viable tier if we can get these things to switch around. Yeah, it's probably the top of the viable tier here. Then we do have the big bad boy, the Milano 821, which I'm kind of sad about. It's like okay. Like, it's like the world's okayest gun. It's essentially what the Tech 9 is now, like, but it's not as good. Like, it's a slow firing, high damaging SMG that's not that high damaging. So again, I feel like this is a relatively okay weapon to use in this game. You're going to be okay with using this thing, like it's not an absolute dumpster tier weapon, but I mean, I'm just going to put this in the middle of the viable tier, or maybe the bottom of the viable tier, because I mean, it hasn't been touched for a while, and a lot of people don't usually run this thing because there's just better options in the game at the moment. Then we do have the MP5 here, which I think is a very, very acceptable weapon in this game as an up-close killing tool. Again, a 280 millisecond TTK value out to about 10-15, I think it's about 12 meters or so, which is again an acceptable close range killing tool in this game, and that's all you're after with most of your SMGs. Again, the recoil can get a little bouncy at those medium to longer distances, so I wouldn't recommend that for this particular weapon, but I mean, up close and personal, you're doing fine with an MP5. We did the Squid Game challenge the other day, and we did fine with no attachments on this thing. Like, we did really, really well, so go check that video out if you have not already done so, because there's a little bit of fun there. So we're going to put this in the meta kind of tier. Even without attachment, this thing is still one of the better SMGs in the game. Then we do have my favorite weapon in the game at the moment, which is the PPSh 41, or affectionately known as the PPSh. I don't know why it's called that, but apparently I've seen it somewhere. It's like, yeah, this is the PPSh. Okay, whatever. Anyway, this is one of my favorite weapons in the game. It does feature a 264 millisecond TTK value after the recent buff that it did receive to its task force barrel. 30 damage per round is actually really, really nice with like a 950-ish sort of RPM. Really, really good weapon in this game. Recoil can be a little bit bouncy, so this is a weapon that does take a little bit of practice to use, and it's not for everyone, but I mean, this is just such a good weapon at killing people up close, man. I love this thing. This is my favorite weapon in the game at the moment. So we are going to, of course, put this in the meta tier because this thing is an absolute demon up close. Then we do have the OTS-9. This is a weapon that did mostly get overshadowed by the Tech-9 when they brought it out. They basically brought out the same weapon and one was better than the other, and it was not the OTS-9. I feel like it is very, very close to being one of the better weapons in the game. If you are getting, I think you need 3 headshots to get a ridiculously fast TTK value, which is just super unlikely. And then outside of those, the TTK value is still pretty good, I think it is. So we're going to put this in the meta kind of tier. It's pushing it, man. Like, it is almost there. If the recoil was a little easier to control and you didn't actually have to get 3 headshots to get that 3-shot kill, it'd be one of the better guns in the game at the moment. But because you do still have to sort of contend with that recoil and this sort of like a 3-shot kill is 3 headshots, it's a little bit worse than some of the other weapons here. Then we do have the Tech-9, which I feel is still one of the best guns in the game, man. They've nerfed this thing a number of times now, and it's still like, it's just basically like the cockroach of this game. It stays alive, man. I feel like the Tech-9, you already know this thing's good. Get that 3-shot kill. 2 body shots and a headshot, I'm pretty confident is still a 3-shot kill, which is a little bit more skillful than we have seen previously with this thing. Just 3 body shots is just, that was too much, and then it made the game bad. Basically, this thing is still good. Still one of the best SMGs and one of the best guns going around at the moment still. Fully auto with this thing. You can still rock the burst fire. They did make it worse in the most recent patch, but I think this thing is still very, very good here. Then we do have the Lapa SMG. Now, what's he going to say about the Lapa SMG? Well, yeah, this thing is not very good. Not going to lie. Not gonna lie for a second, if anybody tells you this thing is good, they're probably lying to you. Basically, it does feature the maximum TTK value with this thing is 320 milliseconds, unless you are going for headshots, and then it's not actually that bad of a weapon. So, yeah, it's definitely interesting. The iron sights on this thing are kind of bad, but the attachments on this thing are kind of cool at the same time. You do have different stuff, like there is like range extending ones, but also like TTK value increasing ones. But again, the maximum that you can push this thing with like standard body shots is 320 milliseconds, which is not ideal. So I feel like this is a perfect weapon to go in our situational tier here. If you are an absolute headshot demon, if you go for headshots exclusively, you're going to actually do like fine with this weapon. It's actually very, very okay. Like, it's acceptable. But when you are just getting those body shots, that TTK value compared to some of these other close range killing tools, like you compare the 320 millisecond value to like a 264 millisecond value, and you're like, why would I use the Lapa over something like a PPSh? Like, I feel like just if you get those headshots, it's a fine weapon in this game. The iron sights are kind of bad. It's like the baby SMG M16. It's really strange. But I mean, I think this is an okay addition to the game. It definitely could have been better as the last weapon they have added to Cold War. But I mean, what are you going to do here? You can't have it always perfect every single time they do add a weapon. This will probably get buffed in the future because it is kind of struggling right now. And that's our list here. I feel like having sort of most of the weapons in the middle of this list is actually quite good. I do feel a little bit bad for the Lapa SMG. It's got a bad rep straight off the bat. Like, I'm pretty sure Exclusive Ace came out with a video that like about 6 hours after it launched, it was like, yeah, this is the worst gun in the game. So yeah, it's got a bit of a bad rep at the moment. It's not that bad, but it does struggle if you don't get those headshots. Anyway, if you did enjoy this one, make sure you do hit that subscribe button with those notifications turned on. I do massively appreciate it, and it really does help me out. And while you are there hitting that or taking a look at that subscribe button, make sure you show the like button some love as well. As I said at the start of the video, that really does help these videos get to more eyes, as well as cut through the YouTube algorithm, which you know is absolutely massive these days. So again, thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Bye!